Now you're live.
So we're good?
This one here. Yep.
We're straight. Let me know when to start. Okay. All right. Welcome to the Massachusetts Developmental Disabilities Council 2025 Biannual Disability Bill Sharing Session. My name is Jossie Burks Abbott, a citizen member and policy chairperson of the Developmental Disabilities Council. For a physical description, I am a middle-aged black male wearing glasses, a white collared shirt with gray stripes, a red tie, and a gray wool sweater vest. First, some housekeeping. Today's session is being recorded and photographs will be taken. If you haven't already, please go to the check-in table to sign a photo video release before you leave. We are so grateful you have made the time to join us today. We'd like to offer a special appreciation and thanks to Senator Joanne Comerford for sponsoring this event and for her continued leadership in support of policies that benefit people with disabilities and their families. The bill sharing session provides our community with an awareness of disability-related bills filed during the current legislative session. In his farewell address to the nation, President Obama said, "The most important office in a democracy is that of citizen." As a citizen member of the Developmental Disabilities Council, I take this title, along with the responsibilities that come with it, seriously. And I'm sure my fellow citizen members feel the same. Some, like me, have a developmental disability. Others are family members of people with developmental disabilities. All are dedicated to the DD Council's mission to provide opportunities for individuals with developmental disabilities and families to enhance independence, productivity, and inclusion. And that mission is what brings us to this bill sharing session today. We're here for our marching orders. What proposed bills should we be prepared to weigh in on, whether by submitting testimony or reaching out to legislators? We're also here in the spirit of camaraderie. The disability community is wonderfully diverse, but sometimes our various interests come into conflict. However, these differences pale in comparison to what we have in common and our shared purpose, fertile ground for coalition building. We're all in the same hole, and the enemy, call it ableism, call it a broken system, is over there. Another thing Obama stressed in his farewell address, our country has confronted many challenges in the past, and we as citizens have the capacity to create a better future. As the former president declared, yes, we did, and yes, we can.
Next up, we have Senator Comerford. I don't believe she's been able to arrive here yet. So I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead in the agenda with the review of the agenda and session guidelines. And once she's able to pop in, we'll have her come up and do her remarks. My name is Jennifer Bertrand. I'm the Deputy Director here with the Massachusetts Developmental Disabilities Council. I have shoulder-length dark blonde hair, and I'm wearing a cream and blue pinstripe suit with a navy top. And I have one hand. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for attending today. We are so grateful to Senator Comerford. We'll be giving her a warm round of applause once she is able to pop in. This bill sharing session is so valuable. It's an opportunity for disability leaders, lawmakers, professionals, and our community to come together. Bill presentations will begin shortly, and the closing remarks will take place at about 3:25 p.m. Session programs are found on each empty seat here in the room. There are QR codes, and it looks like this. There are QR codes on the agenda that will take you to the CART services where you can access CART. We also have a screen in the room here with CART services running. and our bill resource document. That document, presenters are going to be called up today in the order that they appear in that bill resource document. We do have some copies here in the room and a couple of large print copies as well. Feel free to see our team over at the check-in table for one of those if you need it. Bill resource document has information and links to the bills that we're going to hear about today. It also contains contact information, so you can reach out to presenters for more bill information if your questions are not answered today. Questions will be taken from attendees both in the room and from remote participants as time allows. Remote attendees, if you have a question, please use the raise hand feature, Zoom feature, or you can enter your question in the chat. If you are called to ask a question, you may unmute or you will be unmuted, and our Zoom hosts and or tech support members will spotlight you as well as the ASL interpreter. Presenters, you have registered in advance. You have, if you are a remote presenter, you may unmute or staff tech will help you once your name has been called to speak. In-room presenters, you may use the podium here, or you can use the table here to my left to present. Please remember to speak clearly and confidently into the microphone and that little speaker here on the podium and on the table so that people both in the room and our remote participants can hear you. Presenters will have 5 minutes to share up to 3 bills. You'll notice that some bills have 2 bill numbers in the bill resource document because many of the bills that will be shared today have companion bills and they're very similar or the same. So again, presenters, 5 minutes to share up to 3 bills. Remote presenters will be spotlighted on Zoom with the ASL interpreter. We want to ensure presenters have an opportunity to talk about their bills. So we ask all presenters to please respect the 5-minute time limit. Members of our team today will have color cards. The yellow card, when they hold it up, will indicate you have 1 minute left, and the red is, the 5 minutes is up. Please wrap it up so that we can maybe take some questions and then move on to the next presenter. Thank you all again for being here. Let's get on with the program. I think what we'll do at this point, I don't think Senator Comerford was able to pop in yet, so I think we'll kick things off a little bit early and we will welcome our first presenter. One moment. As Senator Comerford was up first, we'll move right on to a remote presenter today. The Executive Director of the Disability Law Center, Barbara L'Italian.
Oh.
She's not here yet? Okay. Well, then we'll move right on. Oh, okay. We are a little ahead of schedule. There she is. We're ready for you, Barbara. We're a little ahead of schedule, so go ahead and begin.
Okay, my apologies. I didn't realize that. I saw I was to unmute, so my apologies. Well, hello, everyone. If not for this terrible weather, I would be there in person. My apologies. I am Barbara L'Italian, and I am the Executive Director at the Disability Law Center. I am going over 3 bills today that are priorities that the Disability Law Center has that we think are applicable to the developmental disability community. The first is an act to provide timely wheelchair repairs. And there are 2 different bills. It's Senate docket or SD 1384, and that is filed by Senator Cronin. And this bill has had some success in that it has successfully come out of committee in the last 2 sessions and been voted on in favor by the Senate. So we thank them very much for doing that. It basically gets at the idea of timely wheelchair repair. It's a big concern for everyone in the disability community that uses a wheelchair. Often these are very sophisticated devices that can cost tens of thousands of dollars, often paid for by Mass Health. And people find that when their wheelchairs break down, it takes a very long time to get them fixed. It takes a long time to get the attention of the companies who bought them, to answer the phone, to schedule to come out and look at them, and to then get the parts. And so we filed, as I said, Senate docket 1384 to try to look at this. We also, and it looks at basically enforcing the warranty on the wheelchair the way you have a warranty on your car. Because for people with wheelchairs, it's really their ability to get out and be able to leave their homes, be able to be out in the community, be able to get to work, be able to enjoy themselves. And so I don't think I'll get into all the details, but suffice it to say that if you're interested in this, we'd be very much interested in having you reach out so that you can be part of our coalition on this. I will say that Representative O'Day, who's also been a real friend to the IDD community, used to file that same bill. We're having him file a slightly different approach, but aimed at the same problem of fixing wheelchair repair. And that one is HD 3617. This is patterned after the state of Connecticut was the first state to really have success in driving wheelchair repairs. Unfortunately, what's been happening is there are 2 large providers throughout the country. All the smaller mom and pop repair shops have been sort of closed or been bought out. And so this is an issue throughout the country. But we looked at what the Connecticut law was successful in doing, and we added a few things. So this one puts a 10 business day timeline on completing wheelchair repairs. It doesn't require prior approval of Mass Health, and as long as the chair is under 5 years old. But what we feel needs to be added in, what Connecticut didn't do when they're passing the bill that they're now going to try to do, is make sure that there's enforcement, if necessary, by the Attorney General's office, that consumers are able to also go to court and have what's called a right of action if they feel this hasn't worked for them properly. And we also build off a regulation Mass Health has right now for parts to be stocked by these 2 Mass Health providers. So 2 different ways, but basically trying to achieve the same thing. Make sure that folks in wheelchairs have more timely repairs. And yes, I can put the bill numbers in the chat shortly. The other 2 priority bills that we have, one of them you probably just heard from Senator Comerford. I don't know if she's still in the room, but she's the co-sponsor on the Senate side, and Representative Farley Bouvier on the House side. And this is around foster care and supplemental security and Social Security income. So we had in Massachusetts youth that were entering the foster care program, oftentimes who have disabilities, who were having Social Security benefits be applied in their name, not being aware of it, And those monies going to essentially pay for foster care by going back into our state budget, unbeknownst to these folks. And for this group of people, oftentimes when they age out of the foster care system, they have no safety net and oftentimes have really challenging circumstances. So Disability Law Center, along with the council, public counsel services, so the court-appointed public defenders, began working with the Department of Children and Families on this. The good news is they've already changed the practice that they are no longer taking this money and putting it back into the state budget. They are required by federal law to pay for the care for people with foster care. So they were basically double paying. But what we'd like to do is see this enshrined in law so that if we have a change in economic circumstances or a change in governor, that we don't backslide and decide to no longer do this. So it would require that DCF apply for benefits for folks, but to put them into ABLE accounts, to set them aside for folks that will not have them run above the asset limits to be able to receive benefits, and to have that money set aside so that when they do become adults and leave the system, they have a pocket of money to be able to assist them with housing, education, whatever it may be. Again, I'll put those numbers in the chat shortly. The last one I wanted to talk about really goes to the heart of what the Disability Law Center does. We are federally required to investigate abuse, neglect, financial exploitation, and that is all set in federal statute. There are a couple of gaping holes in what we're able to do, and 22 other states have set up a state protection and advocacy program to fill those gaps. So this is HD 761. Filed by Christine Barber, and SD 372 filed by Senator Jamie Eldridge. So what we would do would be we would set up a framework in Massachusetts to also allow us to do our protection and advocacy, to do those investigations that I was talking about. And some of you may know that we go in and investigate in day programs and group living programs and nursing homes, jails, anywhere where someone with a disability lives or works or spends their time. If we receive concerns about those situations, we are allowed to go in and investigate. We have a couple of places where we have gaps, as I said. One is that we're only allowed to go in, let's say someone is in an institution, and we're only allowed to go in where they spend their time. So we can go into their room, we can go into the day meeting areas. We can't go into their kitchen. And we actually ran into a situation where we saw mouse droppings and dead mice in an institution and wanted to go into the kitchen to see what that looked like. We weren't allowed to because people with disabilities don't spend their time in the kitchen. So this would fill the gap of allowing us to go in and access other parts of the building where there's any potential threat to health and safety. A second key gap that we have right now that we'd like to fill with this legislation is to get discharge-ready lists from the Department of Mental Health. And as you know, some folks with IDD are dually diagnosed, so they might be receiving services from the Department of Mental Health. We have a lot of people stuck in mental health institutions. And so, wanting to know when folks are discharge ready to be able to help us help them to seek the appropriate supports and services. And
thank you so much, Barbara.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much. Was there one final thing you wanted to add?
Yes, just one final thing, which is that currently we do not consistently receive death reports from some of the state agencies, which again would enable us to go and investigate to see if there are systemic issues. We do tend to receive them from DDS, but we do not from DMH and DPH. So that would be the third gap that this state protection and advocacy bill would address.
Thank you so much, Barbara, and everyone there at the Disability Law Center. We appreciate you zooming in today, and we're glad that you're safe. All right, folks, Senator Comerford, our sponsor and host of the event today, is here. Come on up. We would love to hear from you. And she also will talk about some important bills that are being considered this session.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's give her a warm welcome.
Boy, I'm happy to be here and really, really grateful for the advocacy of this group. And I'm happy to follow Barbara L'Italian, who has been for me a real champion, and she holds a high standard that I try to keep up with in the Senate. So thank you so much for your excellent organizing. I said earlier that, if Jennifer calls and she needs a room, we get a room. And why is that? Well, because this group, your leadership is so important. I closed an earlier event by just saying what I'm about to tell you right now, which is this building can work when people make it work. People power, advocacy days like this, even though sometimes it's hard to imagine that you have the power to change us, you change us. Being here changes the legislature. So when you meet with your members of the legislature, I urge you to just let it rip. Tell your stories, tell your facts. That changes the work that we do. So with that, please, again, let me thank you so much for the slate of bills that you are powering forward. Barbara was kind to speak about what we call the ABLE bill. I know Rick is here. This bill is ready to move, friends. It's in the budget. We have to make it move. I also want to thank you for your continued work on what we call the Blue Envelopes bill, facilitating better actions with the police. That moved in the Senate last year. It can move again with your people power, and we'll be on the inside. And by we, I just want to shout out our legislative director, Rachel Klein, is here. Our chief of staff, Jared Friedman, is here. And we love the bills that you are championing. And I'll just close by saying there's a new bill that we filed this session because we heard from constituents with young people turning 22, that we had to have a plan, a better plan for children, for young people aging out of high school into new horizons. And I have to say, the hardest cases we face in our office are families saying, oh my God, I don't know where my young person is going to go. And is there a place close to us in Western Massachusetts? Often that answer is no. Is there a place that's going to maximize their interests, their opportunities, their passions? Often the answer to that question is no. And we have to do a better job. We have to. And so after fielding case after case after case and working with perfectly great allies at DDS, we knew that we had to change the system because these individual families were part of something much larger that the state had to attend to. So this is the bill for us this session, along with the ABLE account bill, along with blue envelopes. We don't get to just have one win because of you. Let's have many. That's the power that you hold. I'm grateful to be here with terrific Senate colleagues and terrific House colleagues. And we were glad to get this room and so deeply grateful for your advocacy. So thanks so much. Thank you.
In a moment, I want to take one question from the room. If Barbara is still on the Zoom, that would be wonderful. And maybe one here in the room. But I also wanted to give a call out to our ASL interpreters here today. We have Janice Kagan Toiber, and did I say it right? And Cheryl Keeter. We appreciate you being here and helping to make this event accessible today. And of course, our remote cart support today as well for making the cart services available and helping to make this event accessible. And I'd also like to take a shout out to everyone here from the MDDC. We have a number of different members of our team here helping with the Zoom, helping with check-in, our executive director, Craig Hall, and council members here as well. Asha is here this morning or this afternoon. Thank you for being here. Can we give them a nice round of applause? Fabulous. So do we have, Christine, any questions in the chat for Barbara by chance?
you know, it was just what the bill was.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as a reminder, on the agenda today, there's a QR code to the bill resource document, and all of the links to the bills with the title and the summaries that were provided are in this document for you to also access. We'll be updating it if presenters share additional information. We will follow up after the event, and we will send a link with the recording of this event and the documents associated with it.
There is one for the comfort, it's starting 22. I think the spring 22 bill called you're referring to.
Rachel, oh, well, they just stepped out. I think other people are also going to speak to the turning 22 bill. So if we can hold off on that, I think it'll get answered in a little bit.
Yeah, we'll definitely hold on that question because Jose from the ARC of Massachusetts will be presenting that bill a little later down in the agenda. And are there any other questions in the room so far about the DLC bills that Barbara presented? Okay, well, we'll move it right along then. Next up, we have Representative Garbely presenting remotely. Has he had an opportunity to sign in yet? Is he there? Fabulous. And just as a reminder, all presenters, we have so many interesting bills that we want to hear about today. Please limit your presentation to 5 minutes so we can make time for everybody.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, MDDC. Thank you to all the advocates and self-advocates who are in the room presently and everybody virtually as well. I wish I could be with you. I am in transit from another event. Maybe I will get there by the time the event stops. So I have 3 bills. House D 1903, an act to enhance standards of care for those with autism and intellectual and developmental disabilities. I filed this legislation with Representative Christine Barber, and it's really about developing trainings for medical providers in our hospitals to enhance their ability to treat and care for people with autism and IDD. I think many of those in the room will know that people with IDD and autism experience worse health outcomes, particularly those with IDD and other marginalized identities. So this really develops trainings and tasks the Office of HHS creating a plan that addresses continuing education requirements for healthcare providers and really adopts standards of care and improve assessment and diagnosis of those with IDD during primary care visits. And it's a really important bill, and I appreciate everyone who has supported it over the years. The second bill, House Docket 2058, an act to protect medically fragile children. I filed this legislation with Representative Richard Haggerty, and it really seeks to ensure, and Senator Friedman is the Senate sponsor, and it seeks to ensure that children and adults with complex medical needs receive medically necessary continuous skilled nursing services that are authorized by Mass Health. CSN services provide critical care that is authorized and deemed medically necessary by Mass Health to the Commonwealth's most medically fragile children and adults. And we know there's such a shortage, and this bill is critically important for that population. My last bill, and I actually have filed a lot of bills, but around individuals with disabilities. But the last bill I'm discussing today is HD 2762 that I filed with Representative Cataldo, and it's an act updating terminology and investigative practices related to protection of persons with disabilities. So a couple of years ago, actually more than a couple of years ago, the legislature passed Nikki's Law, which was so important in creating a registry of individuals who have been found to have abused individuals with IDD. This bill seeks to expand that to include Mass Health Day habilitation programs in the Commonwealth, where some of the most vulnerable individuals with IDD receiving programming and services. The bill also includes language to streamline the functions and update the words to get it codified into current general law for the Disabled Persons Protection Commission, the DPPC. So thank you all for your support, and thank you for your advocacy.
Thank you, Representative Garbely. We really appreciate you making the time to be with us today. He was not able to be on camera because he's in the car and we want him to be safe. Thank you. We know you're busy and it means so much that you were able to squeeze this in. Next up, we have Cassidy from the staff director from Representative Jay Livingstone's office. Is Cassidy here? Oh, perfect.
The office one too. Hi, everyone. As she mentioned, I'm Cassidy from Rep. Livingstone's office. He extends his apologies that he's not able to be here this afternoon. He had a family event come up, but he is extending his gratitude through me to all of you for your advocacy on all these important bills. So the first bill I'll speak to you on is an act prohibiting discrimination against adults with disabilities in family and juvenile court proceedings. So this bill will allow or prohibit parents from disabilities, especially psychiatric or intellectual disabilities, from inappropriately losing their custody or parenting time. Often parents are denied the right to parent their children simply because of their disability, which is wrong and creates unnecessary foster care placements in our state. So this bill in specific would require the courts to determine if a parent's disability causes actual harm to the child based on evidence and not assumptions. And they would require that it's done in writing or explained written, so that if the parent's disability is a negative factor in custody and the parenting time decisions, the harm can be assessed at that point. This is really important to Rep. Livingstone and a bill that he inherited from Rep. Khan after she retired. With 6.2% of parents in the U.S. having a disability, it's really disproportionate that 19% of children in foster care have a parent with a disability. So 1 in 10 children in the U.S. are at risk of being removed from their home by a child welfare agency simply because their parent has a disability. So this is something that's really important to our office and something that we're looking forward to partnering with a lot of you on this session. The second bill that I'll speak to you on is an act relative to supported decision-making. This bill is something that Rep. Livingstone worked on as his role as the chair of Children, Families, and Persons with Disabilities last session. This is an alternative to guardianship where appropriate. So it would allow certain adults, including those with disabilities, to maintain their rights, their dignity, and their independence by choosing trusted supporters to provide assistance-making decision about their lives, whether that's about their relationships, their finances, their health care, their education, their housing. They can create a team of trusted supporters, whether that's family or friends and trusted people in their life, and work with them to make their individual decisions that are best for them. Currently, as many of you know, too many people are unnecessarily placed in restrictive guardianships when they're able to make their own decisions if they received individualized assistance from people they trust. So this would define those roles and create a mechanism to work with the courts and create protections for people so there's not abuse with the model, and require that courts consider SDM before guardianship. So this does not replace guardianship. It's just an additional and less restrictive option that we worked with a lot of stakeholders, several in this room last session, to refine the language and ensure that people have access to an SDM. And when they choose to enter them, they are protected. So those are the bills from us.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
We actually had a staff member, Tamara, who provided testimony about the first bill that you talked about
great.
relative to preventing discrimination of adult parents who have disabilities.
Yeah.
So we
really
appreciate
important.
Representative Livingstone's leadership on that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Of course, thank you.
All right. Up next, we have a team who is going to be also talking about supported decision-making. There are two bills. Cassidy just talked about the House version of the bill. And I welcome Sandy Heller, Craig Heller, Jonathan Gardner, who is the Massachusetts Supported Decision-Making Coalition Chairperson, and also Nancy Gardner to present on remote.
There we go. Hello, my name is Jonathan Gardner, and I am a disability advocate on the state and national levels, a cancer survivor, and a proud co-chair of Massachusetts Supported Decision-Making Coalition. I also happen to have autism. I'm here today to talk about the importance of supported decision-making, which is a choice that changed my life. Supported decision-making allows adults, including those with disabilities and seniors, to maintain their rights and independence by choosing one or more trusted supporters to provide assistance making decisions about their lives. The bill creates a legal framework for supported decision-making in Massachusetts, allowing people to enter agreements with supporters, setting required elements of an agreement, creating protections against abuse, and more. 16 other states and DC already have laws that provide clear legal authority and steps for supported decision-making agreements. This bill is supported by the Massachusetts Supported Decision-Making Coalition, which is made up of 51 people and representing 14 groups. Many people like me are pressured into guardianship when they turn 18. When I was 16, my school told my mom and me that I needed guardianship, but that didn't feel right. Instead, we chose supported decision-making, where I am the decision maker, and I choose people I trust to help me make decisions. Supported decision-making has been life-changing. When I was diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma at 18 years old, I used supported decision-making to guide my medical journey. There were times when I felt hopeless, when I wanted to give up, but because of supported decision-making, I had supporters, not decision-makers, who helped me find new opportunities instead of making choices for me. That saved my life. For me, being able to make my own decisions with help from people I trust was really important. Supported decision-making made sure that my voice was heard and that I stayed in control of my own life, even during the hardest time I ever faced. Supported decision-making needs to be recognized not just in schools, but in hospitals, courts, and across Massachusetts. Everyone deserves the right to decide on how they live their life with the right support, not control. I urge you to support supported decision-making to become law so more people can have choice, dignity, and the freedom to live their best lives. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. All right, we're just going to do a little bit of a change in the lineup here. Since Representative Barber is here, I'd like to call her up since she's been patient and she's taken the time to be with us today. Thank you so much. Let's give her a warm welcome.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christine Barber. It's really nice to be with you all this afternoon. I am the state rep for the 34th Middlesex, which includes parts of Somerville and Medford. I have been lucky to work with a lot of you in the advocacy community over the last couple sessions. And we've had some good wins and there's a lot more work to do. So it's really nice to see you all today, both online, but I'm really glad that that bunch of folks could make it here, even in the terrible weather. I am going to talk I know I was asked to talk about two bills. I might throw in one or two more. But the first is HG 627. This is an act to improve augmentative and alternative communication, or AAC, for children with disabilities. So as many of us in this room know, alternative communication, AAC, is really critical for many children to participate in school. And a lot of our schools actually have that equipment available. The problem is many teachers are not trained in how to use it. So this bill would require that newly licensed teachers would be trained on AAC. It is something that we've been building a lot of support for. A version of it passed the Senate last year. And I think we have a lot of momentum right now going into the session to actually get this passed. It is something that we've worked with the teachers unions, with DESE, and with a lot of advocates to try to get right. So I hope that you'll all support that and get your legislators to co-sponsor it. The second one is HD 1917. This is an act expanding availability of adaptable housing for people with disabilities. This is also called the AAB, or Architectural Access Board bill. Some of you know that. So right now, Massachusetts has a discrepancy between the ADA and what Massachusetts AAB, which is the Architectural Access Board, is our building board, what they see for people with disabilities. So what this bill would do is actually close those loopholes. So if there are new buildings or buildings that have a gut rehab, they would have to be a certain percentage, I believe it's 30%, adaptable going forward, which is not the case right now. So we want to set that standard and keep it in line with ADA. We all know housing is the biggest crisis we face in the whole state. For people with disabilities, it is nearly impossible to find an accessible and affordable place to live. So this is a really important bill. Versions of it actually have passed both the House and the Senate at different times. I think, again, we have good momentum and really need support to get this one over the finish line. I'm just going to quickly do a plug for a third bill that I filed that's not on your list, so I apologize. It's HD 1026. This is equal access to treatments essential for people with developmental disabilities, intellectual disabilities, or autism. So ABA therapy is something that children are able to get in Massachusetts through age 21, but then services are actually cut off after age 21. So this bill would allow Mass Health, if people want to continue ABA therapy as adults past the age of 22, that they would be able to get covered for ABA therapy. So that is another bill that I filed and I'm working on and would love your support. With that, if anyone has questions, I'd love your support on these bills. There is so much work to do, but we've made some really good strides and I think we can get them passed this session.
So much. Thank you. Do we have any questions in the room right now about the bills?
That some questions, actually. There's one about, we have some for Jonathan, but we also have one in, what was the last bill number?
Question. HD 1026.
1026. And then the other one was, what is gut rehabbing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the building accessibility bill, when a building is significantly, what is gut rehab? How would I also say that? Is significantly renovated. That's a good word. Is significantly renovated. So if someone is taking an old mill building or an old building, but really pulling out all of the insides to completely change it, then they would also have to make it accessible. So it might be an older building that is being significantly renovated.
And then there was, okay. So I think it was the last one for Jonathan and his mom.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. And we can follow up with anyone after who has questions. And of course, with Jennifer, and we have
Barbara, I think we have one more question from Nini.
Great.
I have a question related to other forms of communication, Bill, the alternative communications. Does that include American Sign Language or loop systems for hard of hearing kids, or an FM system for hard of hearing people, CART interpreters, etc.?
I believe so, but I want to get back to you because I want to make sure that we're clear is on all of those systems. It's includes a number of those, but I will get back to you on what specifically we are including there. Thank you for that question.
I will give you my card.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Excellent. All right. And I want to say too, I'm a parent of a daughter who uses AAC, and that AAC access to that in school helped her to succeed in her educational setting. and transition as an adult in the community. Next up, we have Ethan Ray.
Question for John.
Oh, yes. Why don't we stop just momentarily and do the question for Jonathan if he's still on the Zoom? Or they could answer in chat. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm still here, so.
Oh, great. All right. So the question is, Josh, can you do the mic? What are the differences between the two SDM bills is the question in the chat, Jonathan. I don't know how much time we have to provide line by line item because there are a number of different provisions. So I would encourage that person in the chat to reach out to Jonathan and maybe join us at our next Massachusetts Supported Decision Making Coalition meeting, because we will get into the nitty gritty and we'll do a comparison of the two bills. There are some slight differences. The one that Jonathan presented on was from Senator Lovely. It's a Senate bill, SD 1390, and I would encourage folks to go to the two links. The supported decision-making bill that Cassidy talked about is HD 3407. Both of those bills are on the resource bill document. Jonathan, did you want to add anything else?
Not just that Sandy and Craig are also going to speak on it, so that may help a little bit clarifying things in the time frame.
Oh, okay. I thought you all were going together. Sandy and Craig.
Oh, we are all going together. Jonathan did 2 minutes and Sandy did 2 minutes. So
I thought that was pretty quick. Sandy and Craig, are you available? Maybe we should do that first before we move on to our next presenter.
Yes, thank you, Jennifer. Craig and I are here. Sorry we couldn't join you today at the State House, as many we all encountered this wonderful weather. But I'm here today as an appointed member of Massachusetts Developmental Disability Council regarding the supported decision-making bills that Jonathan has spoken about. Senate Bill 1390 filed by Senator Joan Lovely, an act relative to support decision-making agreements for certain adults with disabilities. I'm here now today, and I'm the proud parent of a 36-year-old man, Craig, who is here joining me, who happens to have been born with Down syndrome. 18 years ago, when he turned 18, Craig and his family members made the decision not to pursue guardianship. As he approached turning 18, we were told many, many times by our school district and Department of Developmental Services and staff and others that we should get guardianship of Craig. However, this was not right for Craig. Our approach to Craig's life has always been first presume competent, then take the least restrictive approach. Instead of getting guardianship, Craig began practicing just supported decision-making. At that time, there wasn't even a name for what we were doing, but we were naturally using the approach that has now been named supported decision-making. Craig got help from people he trusts with making decisions, and later when he learned about supported making decision, we created a formal supported decision-making agreement that defined who Craig's supporters are and what type of support he will get from them. And Craig has always had a healthcare proxy in case of emergency and a power of attorney. Today, I'm happy to say that Craig's supported decision-making agreement works. He's chosen 4 people in his life that are family and caregivers to be his supporters, things that are every person should be given the opportunity to decide. From Craig's early childhood to today, he's been given every opportunity to be a decision maker. He's proud and respected for being a registered voter, deciding where he lives and who he lives with, spending his own earned money from where he works at a market basket in New Bedford, and most importantly, given the information to respect and understand his own medical needs. The traditional guardianship route for Craig and our family is not the way we have chosen to go. Historically, our society has presumed people with intellectual disability incompetent or incapacitated, and we don't agree with that. We've seen how support decision making allows adults with Craig, like Craig, to make his own decisions and support and maintain his rights, dignity, and independence. We all learn through our own life experience, and we all rely on others in our lives to help us make decisions, and my son is no different. Thank you for letting us present today.
Thank you so much, Sandy, and Craig too. All right, Ethan, are you here today? He is going to present for Senator Barrett and share some more important bills. Good to see you, Ethan. Thank you for being here.
Hello, everybody. How we doing? I will be very brief. I'm Ethan. I'm Senator Barrett's communications director. He would love to be here. I think he's on a plane right now, so kind of tough to zoom in from there. So I will be doing this on his behalf. The first bill I want to present is Senate docket 1636, which is an act to require closed captioning in telecommunications public areas. For those of you in the room, I don't think you can see it on the camera here, but we've got closed captioning going on right now, a live transcript. Very helpful for people with hearing loss and also English learners. So this bill is very simple. It would just require that upon request, places like restaurants and bars would have to turn on the closed captioning on their television receivers. Very simple. The second bill I'm presenting is SD 1458 for those keeping track of the Senate docket numbers. This is an act relating to public access to historical records. So I'm sure a lot of you are aware of the long and dark history of the state institutions for those with intellectual and developmental disabilities in the Commonwealth. Unfortunately, the records and the stories of a lot of those people who lived and died in those institutions are still unavailable to the public. Right now, you have to go through the state archives, and after a long and drawn out process, a lot of the information you end up getting is very redacted. So you don't even end up learning that much. So what this bill would do is the records accession from state institutions for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities would be open to public inspection for researchers, families of those who lived there after 75 years from the creation of the record. So it's not immediate. It would be 75 years because there are medical records and a lot of that information is sensitive. So there is a large buffer there to make sure that nobody's records are being shared without, a buffer after their passing. So yeah, those are the only two bills I have for you guys. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
All right, moving right along. Also, Chrissy has alerted me.
We have a question in chat. You can help me understand these events and bills so I can support and attend. These are great, and I wish I would have known about this because they will keep it matter.
Great. Well, the Massachusetts Developmental Disabilities Council is a great resource. So I'm sure Chrissy can drop Joshua and Caitlin's emails in the chat. If you're interested in weighing in and sharing your story on any of these bills, we'd be happy to help provide support to draft testimony or even schedule a meeting with your House representative or your senator. We're having a legislative reception on March 6th, and we're helping and supporting people from the developmental disability community to meet with their lawmakers after that event that afternoon on March 6th. So please send us an email and we're happy to help and be supportive. Also in the chat, Jonathan, if you're still on the call, could you just put your email in there again? And if you know when the next Massachusetts Supported Decision-Making Coalition meeting is, I'm sure folks who heard about that bill today who have an interest might want to join the coalition. All right, moving right along. Next up, we have Mass FASD. We have Ruben and Kristen. Are you here today in person or are you remote due to weather? Oh, there you are. Ruben's here.
Online.
Okay. Can we spotlight Kristen, Chrissy? She's online. Kristen Erickson.
Okay, there's two of them here.
Kristen Eriksen.
Okay.
Thank you, Ruben. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Hey, everyone.
Hi.
I'm very grateful to be here along with my colleague Kristen on Zoom, our colleague Jenny in the front row. This is such a privilege. I mean, our program, we work, I'll reintroduce myself. My name is Ruben Cottrell. I work for Mass FASD, as Jennifer said. We provide statewide coordination in many different capacities around fetal alcohol spectrum disorders. The reason why it truly is an honor and a privilege to be here is because we are often, as many disabilities, very overlooked. And the more that we're involved with this community and the more that we're able to attend events like this, it is really meaningful to our work and to all the families that we're able to support.
So I'm here today to talk to you all about a bill that was introduced by Rep. Sina of the 37th Middlesex District. This bill is HD 723, again, for all those keeping track. This is an act establishing a fetal alcohol spectrum disorders program. And this bill is currently a placeholder, but the language is finalized and it's going through the House clerk. So soon enough, it will likely have a new number, but just keep an eye out for anything relating to FASD. There won't be a ton out there, so it won't be hard to find. Just to give everyone a little bit of background, this is something that is not discussed much in the field, right? So fetal alcohol spectrum disorders are a lifelong brain-based and full body disability that occurs due to prenatal alcohol exposure. This causes a wide range of impairments, including physical, cognitive, and behavioral impairments to the individual. This actually affects, and is not often known, this affects an estimated around 1 in 20 people, which is a fairly conservative estimate. It's likely a lot more. So the reason why I'm giving you all this background is so that you're aware as to why this is such a big deal. We're fortunate enough to work with the entire state of Massachusetts professionals, individuals who are impacted by this disability, as well as all the families and caregivers who are living and impacted by FASDs or fetal alcohol spectrum disorders. So what this bill is going to do is it's going to allow for more awareness and expansion of service options for FASDs. This is going to instruct the Massachusetts Department of Public Health to create an FASD program that will be tasked with developing awareness, prevention, identification, as well as intervention service delivery programs. What will happen is they'll be able to create an advisory committee comprised of professionals in the field, and more importantly, and just or equally as important, individuals who are affected by FASDs, as well as caregivers and advocates. So the advisory committee will be super crucial, and we'll have that kind of strategic plan, as well as be able to provide guidance to this program that'll be established for the state. Some of the things that are really important to recognize is that people with FASDs often cannot qualify for services. So disabilities services, which are in place for people with disabilities, folks who are diagnosed with these often will not be able to, due to IQ and other qualifying factors and eligibility criteria that they may not meet because of the unique nature of this disability. One of the things that we do as an organization is we facilitate a task force, and this task force is all volunteer. And we're so fortunate to be able to have such a wealth of knowledge coming through, similar to the families, the professionals that we work with and the families that we work with. They all ask the question, why and where do we go? And currently there's not many places to go. So we help to navigate any kind of resources or service needs that unfortunately are not provided currently in the state of Massachusetts. I'm going to wrap up, and I know we have a very short amount of time, but I want to allow Kristen to share if she has anything as well.
She's muted.
Mute myself. There we go. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. And I want to give a special thanks to the Representative Sena for hearing us and helping put this bill together. I am a proud parent of twins who have FAS, which is fetal alcohol syndrome, one of the disorders listed under this umbrella. It is enormously misunderstood, underdiagnosed, and as a parent, I run 2 support groups for families, which are so well attended, and we really work so hard to just increase awareness. It's an intellectual disability that is very different from many others, but obviously all these bills I'm hearing about are equally applicable for us as well. So thank you very much. And you can reach out to us. I see that our time is up, so I don't want to take extra time from you. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Ethan. Caitlin's going to take over to call up presenters and welcome them.
Yeah.
Thank you, Caitlin.
No problem. Hi, everyone. I'm Caitlin Stober with the MDDC, and next up we have R from the Disability Policy Consortium.
Oh, we're okay.
Oh, the name.
Oh,
Well, with the
I'm not
transfer,
Ruben.
I'll take over the name tags too.
I also feel okay without one, but
Okay. Well, once I find it, R, I'll throw it up there.
okie dokie. Here we go. Perfect. So hello, everybody. My name is R. I am the director of advocacy at the Disability Policy Consortium, which is a organization by and for people with disabilities. We do advocacy, we do research, we do direct services, we do trainings, we do all sorts of stuff, but I do advocacy, so that's what I'm going to talk about. We had our legislative event this morning in this room, so we work on a lot of things, but I want to focus on 2.5 of them. The first that I want to focus on is the numbers are HD 3617 and SD 1384, which are acts relative to wheelchair. Oh, no, I'm not focusing on those because someone else already talked about those. I'm sorry, I am a little bit not my best today. We're going to be talking about HD 2485 and SD 1130, which are about preventing discrimination against people with disabilities in healthcare. During COVID, we saw a lot of different ways that people with disabilities were deprioritized, weren't valued, and weren't considered in the provision of healthcare. People with disabilities were heavily pressured to sign do not resuscitate orders. And in healthcare in general, the lives of people with disabilities aren't measured at the same value as the lives of people without disabilities. So we think that's wrong and that it should change. And so this bill is to ensure that the lives of people with disabilities are valued the same as lives for people without disabilities. I'm also going to talk a little bit about HD 1953 and SD 1708, which is called an act to create affordable homes for persons with disabilities. As Representative Barber talked about, and I'm sure many of you know, housing here is expensive, it is old, it is hard to find, and even if you have all the money in the world, it's hard to find somewhere that's physically accessible. If you are in a wheelchair or have any other kind of physical disability. But if you don't have a lot of money, which a lot of people with disabilities do not have a lot of money, then it's even harder to find a place. And so there's a lot of ways that we work to sort of fix this issue. And one way that we address it is through a program called AHVP, which stands for the Alternative Housing Voucher Program, which provides rental assistance for low-income people with disabilities around the state. It basically helps people pay their rent. And this program is a really great program. It's existed for almost 30 years. And in that time, the needs from the program have changed a lot. And this bill will basically update the regulations for this program, will make it easier to use, will make it easier for housing authorities to give people the help they need. It'll make it easier for people who need assistance to get it. And it'll also make it more cost effective. So more of the money is going towards helping people rather than, waiting for things to happen. I want to also mention briefly, my colleague Nini, I think, is going to be talking about it more, but one of the bills that we are working on is around getting, it's HD 3015, an act relative to health insurance coverage for hearing aids. Hearing aids are really, really expensive.
and often are not covered by health insurance at all. If they are, it's only a couple $100 for a several thousand, maybe 10,000, maybe more dollar piece of equipment that people really need. And so we believe that it should be paid for by health insurance. We will, and that is one of the things that we are working on as well. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much, Art, and everyone from the DPC who's here today. Next up, we have Jose Lopez from the ARC of Massachusetts, who's going to talk about a few bills, including that turning 22 one. So I know there were some questions about that.
Thank you, Caitlin. Yes, I'll get to that one second. So thank you, first of all, MDDC, for this bill sharing opportunity. It really is a great opportunity to get in front of everyone, let you know what we're working on and some of our priorities for this year. My name is Jose Lopez. I'm the policy officer of the ARC of Massachusetts. And the first bill I'm talking about is healthcare standards, which is a refile bill. It's HD 1903 and SD 1231, filed by Representative Garbely, Representative Barber, and Senator Lewis. And you heard Representative Garbely talk about this a little bit earlier. Last session, this bill is called hospital training, but really it covers much more than that. And so the new term, healthcare standards, reflects more the true intention of the bill. It will enhance standards of care for patients with autism and IDD. EOHS will create an integrated state plan to develop training, education, and standards to improve diagnosis, treatment, and care for those patients with autism and IDD. The plan will include setting continuing education requirements for applicable healthcare providers, adopting routine primary care exam standards to improve assessment and diagnosis of IDD, adoption of appropriate continuing education requirements related to IDD as part of state licensure, it's a tough word, renewals. So basically, when you get your license renewal by these programs, they have to make sure they meet these requirements as far as the continuing education for IDD education. Establish an advisory committee tasked with developing recommendations for all of these related areas. And it also importantly includes language requiring providers to ensure emergency department boarding does not occur if it's at all when it's avoidable. So that's some additional languages here, which I think was an important difference. And this language gets at the intersection of mental health, IDD, and lack of providers. People with IDD experience poorer health outcomes, lower life expectancy, and higher mortality rates than the general population. Outcomes are even worse for those persons who have intersecting marginalized identities. A broad coalition, including many hospitals and healthcare organizations, support this bill. Our next bill is the one that was mentioned before with the question of turning 22, and it's turning 22 transparency is the name of the bill. It's a new bill. Its letters are HD 2647 and SD 1662, filed by Representative Whips and Senator Comerford, and mentioned earlier by Senator Comerford as well. And so thanks to both legislators for filing this, but we really appreciate the work with Senator Comerford's office in getting this bill done. Much appreciated there. So with this, turning 22 is a major issue for funding, for programs, for across the board really. And young adults are entitled to education services until they turn 22, and then they enter the adult system. Without intensive planning and preparation that considers the individual's strengths, challenges, and needs, this is going to be a very difficult process, and sometimes people find themselves with no services. At the ARC of Massachusetts, we often hear from these families, and it's a long-term challenge to get persons placed because the process of turning 22, going from the previous system into the adult system, is not as efficient as it needs to be. And this bill hopes to change that in many ways. So again, it looks to improve in transparency and planning for a transition process, improving data collection practices to ensure that lawmakers, government, and organizations can appropriately plan for the upcoming turning 22 class. And each year it's different, but we certainly know the numbers are growing rather than getting smaller. It also establishes a commission to review current practices and gaps in services and prepare a comprehensive plan to address a growing number of young adults and increasingly complex needs. It also ensures that more frequent and transparent communication with youth and families happen. This is something that you can tell people early on and they might think, okay, I've got years to deal with this, but before they know it, a very major shift in their programming and things available to them happens, and it feels like they're caught unawares. So this bill is hoping to make sure that's much more of a smooth transition for those families. This bill also includes a stay put provision. And that would ensure that if a residential placement was deemed necessary, but no appropriate placement is available, that a student can stay where they are, such as a residential school, until an appropriate placement is determined. The last bill I'll mention today is family members and caregivers. This is a refile as well. And this is HD 1110 and SD 1565. Filed by Representative O'Day and Senator Lovely. So again, thank you to both those legislators for filing. This bill allows guardians, caregivers, and others with legal standing to be paid for providing adult family foster care, or AFC, and personal care attendant, PCA, services. This is a bill critical for a few reasons. To support caregivers who are providing care to their loved ones, and to provide a tool to soften the workforce crisis. There is a shortage of PCAs and a growing need for AFC providers. This was exacerbated by the pandemic and continued underfunding of human services workforce. Many guardians and family members have left the workforce to support a loved one due to the lack of available providers. Despite this, Massachusetts state law limits who can receive reimbursements. For Mass Health PCA AFC services, some family members are eligible to be reimbursed, but spouses and legal guardians cannot, as things currently stand. Just one last comment to wrap it up. This bill allows legally liable family members, including but not limited to biological, adoptive, foster, or step parents, legal guardians, adult children of care recipients, to be included within the definition of family members that can be paid for these services. This is an equity issue as much as anything else, particularly for single parents. So thank you very much for your attention today, and please get behind these bills.
Okay. I know I didn't have a question.
Yeah, question, yeah, please.
Chrissy, that earlier question that you had.
It was around the name of the bill, and it's turning 22 transparency is the name of the bill. And its call letters are HD 2647 and SD 1662. And again, I'm very happy to take any questions if there are any follow-ons. Cheers. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you. And it's on the sharing resource document, Chrissy.
Do we have any questions right now?
No.
Great. If that's the case, do we have one in the room? Okay, if that's the case, we'll keep on moving so everyone has a chance to kind of share their presentations. And if we don't get to questions, please keep note of them, and we'll make sure to connect you with the right people afterwards. So next, we're going to go to Karen Romano online. So she's going to be remote, presenting on the changing tables. Karen Romano.
All right, can you guys hear me? I'm sorry.
Yep, we can hear you.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Karen Romano. I am the parent of a 7-year-old with developmental disabilities, and I'm here speaking on behalf of Changing Spaces Massachusetts, and I'm presenting on Bill HD 982 SD 2250, which is an act requiring universal changing stations in public buildings. A version of this bill did make it to Ways and Means last session, but we are hoping that we can get it to pass this year. So this bill would require any newly constructed, reconstructed, or remodeled state-owned and maintained public building in Massachusetts with a public restroom to include at least one universal changing station. A universal changing table is defined as an adult-sized changing table capable of holding at least 350 pounds and accessible to individuals of any age or sex who require assistance with diapering. The bill outlines specific requirements for the changing stations, including weight capacity, size, accessibility features, and compliance with the Americans with Disability Act. The bill also mandates signage about location, instructions for use, and safety features. There's also exemptions in cases where installation is not reasonably feasible. We're all very accustomed with walking into a public restroom and seeing an infant changing table. We don't question them. They make perfect sense, a mechanism to change an infant's diaper in a safe, clean area while out in public. but not everyone who requires assistance with toileting is an infant. Older children, adults, elderly may all require assistance with toileting due to disability, injury, or illness. However, most public facilities lack the necessary equipment to change these individuals in a safe, sanitary, private, and dignified manner. So families have to change their loved ones on the floor of a public restroom, in the back seat of a vehicle in a parking lot. Some families withhold liquids before a long trip to minimize the need for use of public facilities, or worse, they simply choose not to travel or attend community events due to lack of appropriate bathroom facilities. This bill is aimed at ensuring that all residents of Massachusetts and visitors to the Commonwealth can feel fully included and accepted regardless of ability or infirmity. I'm reminded of a cartoon that shows a group of people waiting to climb a flight of stairs to enter a building after a snowstorm. A facilities person shovels off the ramp next to the stairs. When asked why he's shoveling the ramp instead of the stairs, he says, "If I shovel the ramp, everyone can get inside." A universal changing station allows all individuals who require diapering, from infant to elderly and everyone in between, to engage in meaningfully inclusive experiences in their communities and throughout the Commonwealth. The passing of this bill would correct a false assumption that was made long ago, the assumption that only infants and toddlers require diapering. With each of the bills that are presented today, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is striving to recognize the importance of accepting and including all people, irrespective of ability. But we cannot effectively accomplish that goal if we do not equip our public buildings with safe, functional toileting facilities accessible to all citizens and visitors. I want to thank the ARC of Massachusetts for giving me the opportunity to present. I also want to thank Representatives John Lawn and Sean Garbley and Senator Michael Barrett for their sponsorship of this bill. In conclusion, I ask for your support getting Bill HD 982, an act requiring universal changing stations in public buildings, passed this session. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thanks so much, Karen. Next up, we have Kelly Batiglieri. Is Kelly here today? I know that Kelly registered in person, but has she joined us remotely?
Yes, I'm here right now.
Oh, welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting us to participate. So my name is Kelly Batiglieri, and I am with the Brain Injury Association of Massachusetts. Last week, we also held our Advocacy Day at the State House and was really pleased with the number of people that attended. So I'd like to talk to you about three main bills that we are advocating for. The first one is the Cognitive Rehabilitation Bill. The numbers are SD 1890 and HD 866. It's been filed by Senator Paul Feeney and Representative Kim Ferguson. We've been advocating for this bill for over 10 years. It's a long, long history. It's our number one priority that this bill get passed. So in a nutshell, what this bill would be doing is requiring commercial health insurance plans to cover cognitive rehabilitation for individuals that have had an acquired brain injury. So acquired brain injury is a wider scope. It does include traumatic brain injuries, ones that happen by force, car accidents, falls, etc. But then it also includes ones that happen from a brain tumor or a stroke, etc., things like that. So with the history of this bill, we were able to have a CHIA report done on it in 2016. So I stress that it was 2016. And so now we believe that the CHIA report needs to be redone. What that report did find is that the cost for the typical health insurance plan would be about 8 cents a month if cognitive rehabilitation was covered. One of the things that we were able to do as we've been advocating for this bill is that during the midst of COVID, we were able to include with the omnibus healthcare bill that that commercial health insurance plans, GIC, Group Insurance Commission, and Mass Health cover cognitive rehabilitation for COVID-19 patients. So we're hoping to gain more information from that to show the effectiveness of it. It's not we don't need it. There's plenty of research that shows that it's very effective. Also in the year 2019, the Heller School at Brandeis did a report on this bill and found that that when insurance does not pay for this, the potential for functional improvement after a moderate to severe brain injury, the state will end up picking up that cost. So this is our most important bill that we're advocating for, and we are hoping that we'll have an early hearing and that will enable it to have a new CHIA report done on the bill. The second bill I wanted to talk about quickly is the Head Injury Treatment Services HITS Trust Fund Bill. This is bill number SD 2507 HD 868. This was filed by Senator William Driscoll and Representative Kim Ferguson. So the funding for state services for individuals that have had a brain injury are covered by a budget line item as well as this trust fund money. So the fund is funded by civil fines that are collected from speeding violations, operating under the influence of alcohol and drugs, and driving to endanger. So these fines have not been increased in a significant number of years. The Acquired Brain Injury Commission report recommended that these fines be increased. So what this bill would be doing is increasing the fines for speeding violations. Right now, 100% of OUI offenses do not go to the trust fund, and it would be staggering the offenses for OUI and DUI. And the final bill that we're advocating for is for a primary seatbelt bill. So this is for everybody in the state. Massachusetts does not have a primary seatbelt bill. Individuals cannot be pulled over solely for not wearing their seatbelt. This bill would require that it become the primary offense. So when there is an offense for not wearing the seatbelt, that $50 fine would go in to also fund the HITS Trust Fund that I just talked to you about. So Massachusetts is really poor number of individuals that wear their seatbelt every day, all the time. And the National Highway Traffic Safety Board found that if this bill passed, seatbelt usage would increase by 7.8%. So this is a really important bill for everybody in public safety. And that's the three bills that I wanted to talk to you about. Thank you for the opportunity. If there's any questions.
Thank you, Kelly. Do we have any questions in the chat? No? Do we have any questions in the room? Excellent. Our next presenter is also online. It's Mia Capuccio. And Mia's going to speak today about her story and relate it to actually H1 or the proposed state budget.
Okay, let me start again. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, great. Let me start over again. Okay. Okay, go ahead. Good afternoon. My name is Mia. I'm here today because I want to have a fair chance to live a good life just like you. I have an intellectual disability. It means some things are hard for me, like reading big words or doing things fast. But it does not mean I can't work. Does not mean I can't live on my own. It means I just need some help doing these things. Right now, I do not have the they need. I ask staff that are kind and will help me. So far as found, no one has found any staff, and not even one. I have asked for help to find a job. I want to work with helping people. So far, no one has been giving me able to help me. I want to take care of myself. I want to be a part of the community. I want to have a job that pays money. I go to a day program Monday through Friday. I spend my hours in the van, and lots of time beginning born. Please help fix this. I want a home where I feel safe with nice staff will not yell at me or tell me to stay in my room. I want the right to make choices about my life just like you do. Please help people like me to work and live on their own. Help protect our rights. We are not asking for special treatment. We're asking for a fair chance. Thank you for listening.
Just saying, thank you so much, Mia, for sharing your story. Does anyone have questions for Mia? Jose?
Yeah, just a quick question. So if Mia is interested in doing some testimony, this is one of the bills we're covering. We'd be happy to connect with Mia and advance this idea.
Absolutely. Well, Mia, it sounds like you impressed a lot of people with your story. So Jose from the ARC of Massachusetts is interested in connecting if you'd like to do more advocacy. And you're also connected with us. So we'll definitely be able to advocate as a team. Great. Pass it over to
Hello, everyone. I'm next calling up Ouija and Javon from Massachusetts Advocates for Children to speak to us on some bills that they have. Also, I'm Josh. I'm the new Disability Policy Specialist at MDDC. Very happy to meet all of you.
My name is Shabano Kunde. I am a Black autistic self-advocate. I work at Massachusetts Advocates for Children, MAC, as the Racial Equity and Access Program Assistant. MAC is a nonprofit organization that helps support the rights of Black and Brown students, students with disabilities, English learners, and immigrant students throughout the state. I'm here to talk about a new bill that MAC is leading the advocacy on. The bill is called an act relative to affirming and maintaining equal access to public education for all children. The bill is HD 2144, sponsored by Rep. Frank Moran and Rep. Price. The bill is also SD 1208, sponsored by Senator Payano and Senator DiDomenico. This is a new bill, which means that this is the first time it's ever been filed. With the new actions coming in from the federal government, many long-standing education rights are in jeopardy for English learners, immigrant students, and students with disabilities. There are a lot of federal protections in education that can change under the new president. These protections are important for English learners, immigrant students, and students with disabilities. We want to strengthen Massachusetts law so that if the new president makes changes that take away important protections, we would still have those protections in Massachusetts. I am going to briefly describe 4 things the bill would do. This is very technical. If you have any questions, let me know, and Matt can follow up with you and answer them. Number 1, the bill would put into state law special education protections for English learners with disabilities. This will make sure the needs of English learners with disabilities are met in school. Number 2, the bill would put into state law requirements about school interpreters. This makes sure interpreters are qualified and trained so that schools can properly communicate with multilingual, non-English speaking parents and guardians. Number 3, this bill would help stop the school-to-prison pipeline for students with disabilities. It would protect students with disabilities from inequitable school exclusion by putting protections in state law. Number 4, the bill would protect students with disabilities and immigrant children from discrimination. It would make anti-discrimination law for schools apply to these students. We hope you will support this bill. Massachusetts is a pioneer in special education law. We made a lot of progress and do not want to backslide. Education is important for all students and should be accessible and inclusive. Now I'm going to pass it to my colleague Luigi.
Hi, my name is Luigi Vincent. I'm a master's advocate for master for children. I am the MAC fellow, and now I'm going to pass it on to my John Pino.
Hi, my name is Joanne Pino. I'm from the Mass Advocates for Children. I am the Youth Fellow Supervisor as well as the Outreach and Training Coordinator. And today we're going to be talking about two bills also that MAC is prioritizing. And we also have handouts on the table if anybody's interested in taking them about these bills as well as the one that Javon spoke about. So today we're going to talk about, the first bill we're going to talk about is an act to improve augmentative and alternative communication opportunities for children with disabilities. This is a refile bill and it's House docket number 627 and it's sponsored by Representative Barbara. So she briefly talked about this earlier today. And it's Senate docket number 361, which is sponsored by Senator O'Connor. And Luigi's gonna give a brief explanation about this bill.
This bill will help children with disability who cannot communicate by talking, and by training teachers how to help with AAC device. Some so that students can be part of the class all the time. I have a friend who use AAC device and it would help him if he had a problem that teachers could help and train, help train teachers.
Yeah, so that they can help. If there's a problem with the device, they can go up and they can help figure out what's going on with the student, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a great bill and hopefully we can get to pass this session. So the second bill that we want to talk about today is an act relative to training, assessment, and assignment of qualified school interpreters in special education settings. It's House Docket Bill 485 by Representative Cabral and Senate Docket 1083 sponsored by Senator Crichton. And again, Luigi's going to do a brief description.
This bill train interpreters so that parents and students can understand what is being said during an IEP meeting and also other meetings at school. This bill also will make schools stop using non-trained staffs for the meeting. This is important to me because when I was in school, when I came to the United States, the school used random teachers to be my interpreters. And this bill will stop them from using non-trained staffs.
So thank you. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, as I said, we're here and there's also some more handouts up on the desk over there. Okay. Good.
Thank you so much for sharing those two bills. That was an amazing presentation. Our last speaker of the day is going to be Casey Lenardon, who's going to be joining us remotely. Casey will not have video, but if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them or put them in the chat. Thank you.
Is she on, Kristen? Okay,
But. I think they just did it.
unmute.
Yeah, they are unmuted. Casey, go ahead.
Oh. Casey, we're not able to hear you yet.
We move on to Mimi.
So maybe, Casey, when you work on your audio, oh, it looks like Casey needs some help unmuting.
They are unmuted.
Okay, can you try one more time for us, Casey? It seems like there might be some audio issues, so to give you a few bonus minutes to try and sort that out, and our team will work with you. We also have an additional presenter, Nini Silver, who's going to speak to a bill as well.
Can you hear me?
Sorry, is it okay, Nini, if you go next?
That's fine.
Thank you for your flexibility. All right, Casey, we'd love to hear from you now.
Okay. Well, I had a video. When you told me to unmute my video, I did. All of a sudden it disappeared. So I have no clue what's going on. I've always had a good video. All right. Thank you for including me on this. Yes, I'm towards the end, 3:25, but it's a good thing. I'm presenting today 3 bills. The first one is the HD 2857. Now, the HD 2857 is an act relative to childless individuals with chronic disability experiencing homelessness. This particular bill was formerly S2663. It actually a bill that I worked really hard with several representatives and even VFW before we entered COVID. It actually went all the way to House Ways and Means, about to be passed, but due to the COVID, unexpected, deadly pandemic, the COVID bills took precedence. And because it did, other bills got stuck on House Ways and Means. And then,
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Could you please pause for a moment? Our cart has gone down in the room and we need to get that up and running so people can understand what's being said.
Sure.
Thank you. We'll let you know when you can start again.
Sheamus here?
No.
Is it possible for us to turn on the captioning for Zoom and make it the font really big for the last one?
Good question. Jackson, is it possible to put the cart on? The text stream on here so that instead of having the Zoom?
We're going to work and try and get, it seems like the TV has just shut off, so we're going to try and get the cart streaming to one of the monitors.
Too. On your agenda, there is a QR code to cart and you can access it on your device. If someone needs a device, I'd be happy to give you my phone if anyone needs it.
you guys' TV went off. My video went off. Strange.
Looks like cart got disconnected.
So it's not on Liz, can you email them real quick?
Okay, I'm sorry.
So remote cart somehow got disconnected and they're no longer,
It's on the button. Okay,
so they're not on the Zoom as well.
Okay.
We'll give it a minute and then we'll resume. We're still within the bounds and we have a little extra time. Thank you for your patience. Something's got to always happen, right? If it's not.
Yes, so.
Oh, here's Seamus.
But her connection.
The cart.
She's connected. All right.
Okay, great.
So thanks for your patience. We're going to hear from Casey and then we also are going to hear from Nini today as well. And then Jossie will close up his final remarks. We'll be here for a little longer as well until 4 o'clock. So, there are lots of refreshments still there to enjoy. So thank you for being here and for your patience. Casey, we're ready to go.
Shall I proceed?
Yes, please.
Okay. As I was saying, this particular bill would have been passed, but we did have an unprecedented time during COVID. So every bill, anyone who knows the process for House Ways and Means, once the session is over, you're gonna have to start it all over again. So I am putting it in this year and hoping that it goes through finally to get signed because we need it. This particular bill, which is what I'm speaking first, is regarding childless individuals that are chronically disabled, like home care nursing disabled patients and elderlies who cannot be able to be in a public shelter when they lose their homes. Now, as you know, elderly and disabled people are in the same federal protective class with families with children. They are equal under the federal law. What you give to one, you got to give to the other. And a person who is chronically disabled should be able to have a temporary home in hotels, motels, as you give to those who have children. And that is what this bill is about, to have that ability to put those that lost their home, whether you lost it through natural disaster, wrongful or no fault eviction, domestic violence, health or safety issues, you should be able to have that temporary housing in a motel or hotel and not be asked to go be in a public shelter where your health condition cannot even handle it. There are people that are have to do their treatment constantly. And in shelters, you are asked to leave early in the morning and evening, and you can't, some people, the beds are not conducive to them. There's so many issues, so many reasons that what you give to people with children that are housed in hotels, extended stays, residence inn, you have to give it to childless disabled individuals. You cannot ask an elderly person to go to Stop and Shop and go buy children. It doesn't work like that. They can't have children no more. Adults, disabled people that can't have children due to different types of illnesses. It is not fair. What you give to one, you gotta give to the other, since under the federal law, is actually required that they must be equal. So this bill, you could read more about it. I'm hoping that this year, hopefully we won't have any other natural disaster. Well, we don't know, but still.
AC, thank you so much. We have 1 minute left. Thank you. Do you want to touch on the other two bills that you have on the bill resource document?
Yes. The other bill is an act to change and increase the state current minimum maximum number required for handicap apartments, rental apartments in complexes, homes, and hotel. Because right now, the state, the minimum, they ask them maybe 3. And you got hundreds and thousands of handicapped people are waiting to move into homes. And because of this, they are stuck. Some displaced for many years. So we need to have more handicap apartment in these apartments. You're gonna have 300 units and you only put 3 units for handicap. It is not fair. So that's that one. And the other bill is HD 4306, is an act to reform, dissolve, and recreate the housing authority and end housing choice and benefit racial discrimination. This also is for people with disability, because when it comes to voucher, they also should be a priority for elderly disabled, just like you make a priority for those with children, to house them immediately and not ask them to wait for years to be housed, especially they are in the same vulnerable category. Please look into the bills and you get details. So due to time, this is all I can say for now.
Thank you so much. Next up, we're going to have Nini present, and then we'll finish the event with some closing remarks from Giassi. Thanks, Nini. Give a mic. Where's the second microphone? No, where's the second microphone for our interpreters?
Oh, they're going to use their own voices and speak.
You want to get it?
In English.
Yes. Then we'll move that away. There's a stand if you'd like.
Hi, my name is Miri Silva, and I work with our Damon, who spoke earlier about several bills. We work for the Disability Policy Consortium. And I want to take a moment to talk about the hearing aid bill. Representative Galbally did not give himself enough credit. He is also filing a bill that would require private health insurance to pay for hearing aids. And I can tell you I'm 57 years old and I've been wearing hearing aids for 54 years. And I have never, ever, ever had them remotely covered enough. Currently, the hearing aids I'm wearing cost $7,500, and the insurance. I'm sorry, I apologize. It's been a long day. My insurance only covered $1,700, which left me having to pay $5,800 out of pocket. In my 30s, I had to ask my parents for money, to help pay for my hearing aids, which really didn't make me feel good about myself. Also, over-the-counter hearing aids, as you may know from Elizabeth Warren, and you can see our interpreter feels the same way. They're not sold in stores very often because they're really not cost effective. It costs the stores like CVS, Walgreens, a lot of money to purchase them and carry them in their stores, and then almost nobody comes in and buys them. So anyway, so there's that problem. And the other problem with them is that they're not prescribed by an audiologist. So it could be that the hearing aid is too loud and would actually be damaging your hearing. I mean, if you think about it, I see a lot of people with glasses here. What if you just picked up any old glasses and put them on? So it's kind of like that. So the other part of this bill is that we really want to begin the process of having hearing aids covered as durable medical equipment. And the definition is medical equipment that can be used repeatedly and is primarily used for medical purposes. I wear my hearing aids every single day. That's pretty repeatedly, if you think about it. And I use them for medical purposes. I can't hear, so I put them in. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Paul Gambino, isn't it?
I think we have to turn it down.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I got it.
Sorry, everyone.
Can you hear me better now? Perfect. My name is Paul Gambino, and I'm an advocate and consumer. I also wear hearing aids as well, and I have worn since I was 5 years old. I just became 60 about a couple of months ago, and now I'm going into a new, different adventure of trying to purchase hearing aids as a senior citizen. When I was a young kid, my parents paid for it, and as I got into my 20s, I had to find ways to get money to pay for hearing aids. all because Tony Health Insurance won't pay for them. I relied on Mass Rehab, I relied on many agency, and I had to save some money to even, buy hearing aids out of my own pocket. One of the things, what I've done was, I was working with an agency called Deaf Incorporated back in 2003, and I developed a ad hoc group with hard of hearing and professionals to advocate to get the health insurance covered for the hearing aids. We've been doing this, so this has been happening for over 20 years, and nothing has been passed. With the exception that there was a bill for children, the health insurance paid for the children's hearing aids. However, when those children are aged out and become age 18, where are they going to get the funds to pay for the hearing aids from age 18 and up? This is one of the things we need, actually age 21. So, it is incredibly expensive as being expressed. I'm due for new hearing aids, and I'm kind of really not too happy that I have to figure out a way to get funding just to pay for my hearing aids. So the health insurance would definitely be a big, huge help.
Well, thank you, Nini and Paul.
Oh, let's get you a microphone.
Oh, yeah. Hmm. Thank you. Thank you, Nini and Paul. Before we go, let me just say thank you again to Senator Comerford for sponsoring today's disability bill sharing session. How nice it was to be here in person with so many of you. And I also appreciate the people who joined us online. The last bill sharing session occurred during the height of the pandemic and was conducted completely over Zoom. It's interesting how remote work and accommodation disability advocates had been promoting for decades suddenly became the norm. Indeed, we all need to make accommodations just to survive. Stores were rearranged to make room for social distancing, and indoor events were moved outdoors. COVID-19, in a way, brought the world together while demonstrating the depth of our interconnectedness. Like the butterfly effect, but instead of a butterfly flapping its wings and causing a tornado thousands of miles away, it was an infected bat leading to a global pandemic. And the mitigation measures taken to stop the spread of the virus were not just for the immunocompromised or others considered at high risk. They were meant to protect us all. When curb cuts were created to accommodate wheelchairs users, it also helped people with strollers and rolling suitcases. It's called the curb cut effect, and it applies, where am I? Called the curb cut effect. Lost my place, sorry about that. And it applies to closed captioning, automatic doors, and other innovations in universal design. The bills presented today may not seem relevant to everyone, but we all have a stake in addressing systemic inequities. As Martin Luther King Jr. wrote in his letter from a Birmingham jail, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly." The MDDC staff will follow up with an email to all attendees with a link to the recording of the bill sharing session and a resource document with information regarding all the proposed policies presented here today. The MDDC is a valuable resource for legislators and members of the community. Please reach out to us anytime. Thank you again, and safe travels home.
People can stay and help, eat some of this food.
Yeah.
So, and we'll be here for at least another 20 minutes to mingle and connect with folks who can stay. Thank you, everyone. Here we go. Here we go.
If any of our presenters are still in the room, if you don't mind coming up to the front of the room for a group photo, that would be great.
Yes, of course.